Hola y bienvenidos a todos. Habla Leticia. Hey, welcome everyone to Spanish Talk. I am super excited today. I have the distinct pleasure of having a very special guest here today. Actually, this is the first person that will be interviewed among many on today's channel. So we have a very special treat for you today. For those that are lovers of travel, you are definitely in the right place. So today's focus is going to be on Spain. So let me bring our special guest forward and we will take it from there. Hello and welcome, Jack.
Hey,
So before we jump in, I want to say something about the person that is on the screen with me. I said a very special guest, but guess what? He is also my biological brother. And so I have the displeasure of having him as the first person being interviewed on Spanish Talk today. So I am super excited. So before we jump in, I want to go ahead and encourage you to hit that subscribe button, that like button, and activate the notification bell so that you can be notified every time that a new video is uploaded. So before we proceed with today's interview, I know Jack, but I want to give him the opportunity to tell the viewers who is Jack Sutherland.
oh, what a great question. Who is Jack Southerland? Well, first of all, Letitia, sis, my oldest sister, my big sis. Thank you for having me, the first person on your show. So, who am I? I'm Jack Sutherland. I'm founder of Spark 828 LLC. I believe that every breakthrough begins with a spark. I'm currently based in New York, originally from the South. I'm in the tech business, currently at Uber. Before I was at Uber, I was at Amazon. Before Amazon, I was at Meta/Facebook. And at the end of the day, I'm a father to four. Lisa's my wife, and I'm all about all who wander are not lost. And I really look forward to just sitting down and talking about our experience in Spain. It's so funny that we're doing this now because it is 6 months after. So I took that trip August 17th is when I flew out of the US. I saw you August 18th, and we're now 6 months later. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just a great time to sit down and really unpack that trip and that experience. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much, Jack. And as he already alluded, today's focus will be on Jack's trip to Spain. Well, somebody may ask, well, why is that so important? Well, truthfully, to be honest with you, I never envisioned this interview. But Jack, I got to tell you that it really was your excitement and you just allowing me to get into your world while you were there. I mean, I was there with you physically, obviously, but just the way that you expressed the impact that the trip had on you, it just I'm like, no, we got to do something with this. So I want to jump start this off. I want to jumpstart this off with that. Well, no, let's go back. I was going to say jumpstart this off with your arrival at the airport, but let's talk a little bit about leading up to the trip. So give me a moment. Let me see if I can pull this visual up here. So many people that travel, I'm certain that you can identify with not being able to access, those items or those products that you can only get, from your home country, whether you're from Africa, whether you're from Europe, whether you're from Asia. So one of the things that I asked Jack for was, well, actually I asked him for two things. Jack, what was those two? What were the things that I asked you for?
Laris seasoned salt and
I asked
BC.
him. I asked him for Larry seasoning salt. Let me go back here on our slides here. This is what I asked him for. I asked him for Larry seasoning salt, and I remember telling you, Jack. I was like, Jack, if you can't get Larry's, because I think I kind of asked you last minute, you can get like McCormick's, just whatever you do, get me some seasoning salt because as I navigated the store, the grocery stores in Spain, I'm like, oh no, I don't know what this is, and now I'm trying to find. I don't know if I want to say like the equivalent or something close to the equivalent because I wanted my chicken to taste like my chicken.
Right, right,
So,
right.
and then the other thing that I asked for was some BC powder.
Mhm.
So one of the interesting things, especially since this channel is about language, culture, language, culture, and travel, is that I found that in Spain, a lot of the medications, let me just say it like this here, a lot of the over the counter medications that we get here in the United States, we could just go to Walmart or go to CVS and pick it up. It doesn't work that way. So that's something to keep into to take into consideration when you're traveling. So there you have to have a prescription for it. So I was just happy to see this um, BC powder, which is great for headaches, but also too it has some caffeine in it, so it gives you that extra push as well.
We're gonna have Larry's and BC sponsor this segment soon. But you know what I loved about it? I was actually remember I was texting you via WhatsApp while I was in the store, making sure
Mhm.
I got the right BC headache powder. And
Uh
then
huh.
Larry's piece, I think sometimes you take for granted home and wherever you are, sometimes you want to have a taste of home. And like, sure, you and I will talk about the amazing food and the experiences that we had. But sometimes you just want a taste of home. And so I actually had a lot of joy in being able to kind of take something so simple as walk into a store and bring in that. And I think
Uh
now in
huh.
the future, whenever I'm traveling, sometimes just ask that person, hey, is there anything I can bring you that you don't have access to? And see if you can do that. So I thought it was funny, but definitely something that I did. And you noticed in the pictures, I helped you. They were on the trip just as much as me. So BC was in Atlanta. When we got to Atlanta, we got to Madrid. They took the trip as well, and I totally didn't expect that to happen. But it was funny, and I'm glad that I was able to bring that and provide it for you.
Okay. So next, I wanna play a little short video clip,
Yeah.
and I want you to tell me like what was going through your mind. You know, we have so much that we could say, we can't get it all
Hmm.
in in one segment, but I want to share this with you. Hey nephew. Look at that big smile.
Terminal.
Hey nephew.
Hmm.
I'm gonna tell you, I was already in great anticipation, really excited about your arrival and everything.
Hmm.
I was like a little child in a candy store. But what was this being? Obviously, we know it's not your first time in Europe because you
Right.
visited me in Germany, but this
Right.
is your first time in Spain.
That's right.
Talk to me about talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I want to do two things. First of all, I'm going to go one more step back and tell you why I was smiling so hard. So obviously, you know this, but for everyone listening, 2023 was a year of transition for me. And in 2023, I was part of a layoff. And so, I shared very intimately with you that I was part of a layoff. I was out of work for some time. And prior to that, I was interviewing for a couple of roles. And I'm like, hey, Tina, if I get this role, I'm going to come to Spain and celebrate. I didn't get the role, but I still took the trip. And so as I look back on the entire trip and me coming into the airport and me seeing you, it was a reminder for me that regardless of whatever circumstances or situation you're in, when you have an opportunity to take a trip of a lifetime, take the trip because you'll be glad you did. So
Mhm.
when I saw you, I was smiling because I didn't I didn't realize that when I was on the plane, I was in a bit of a bubble. And as soon as I got off the plane and I was with my luggage, everything was in another language and I was in another world. And I became overwhelmed. And I was like, okay, I can barely read the signs. How am I supposed to navigate getting to the place that you and I needed to meet? And so I went through customs. Obviously, I went through that whole process, but it was just that was the first time I got confronted with knowing how to navigate an airport reading signs, and trying to meet up with someone, and you were in a totally different terminal from me. So yeah, I was so happy and relieved that I actually took a bus. I was paying attention to every stop that the bus was on. I mean, when you're talking about you are really paying attention and reading and trying to decipher as much as you can, that was me. And then I finally did it, and I saw you, and I was just like, wow, I passed the first test of my trip.
Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting. Maybe in the next video, we can share with the viewers what was going on with me on the other end because
Mhm.
I was very adamant about making sure that I arrived at the airport in a timely manner because first of all, we could do a whole segment on just the airport in Madrid.
Yeah.
So many, so many lessons to be learned, so many, nuggets that we could share for people that's passing through for the first time, even if you are a native Spanish speaker, because I've had a couple of friends that are native Spanish speakers,
Mhm.
and um, um, that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. So that can be a challenge. So, my hat's off to you for just navigating that process. But anyway, I was very adamant about getting there, in a timely manner.
Mhm.
And I remember calling you because I was outside of I forget exactly what they call it, but it's like the meeting hall for like new arrivals.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, I had to stop and take a quick, restroom break. So I'm like, okay, so that explains the delay.
Right.
But then, and so I was like, okay, no problem. We have a lot of cushion because I already had our first stop, the first place that I wanted to take you, and it was only to me it was only reasonable because it's a
Mhm.
30-minute ride, and that was to the beautiful city of Segovia. So stay tuned. We're going to share a little bit of our experience in Segovia. So I was like, okay, no worries. We got a nice cushion.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think, I don't know, like 30 minutes passed by, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then you were like, oh, sis, I'm not in Terminal 1, I'm in Terminal 2, or vice versa. And so that's when we
Mhm.
discovered, like, wait a minute. I'm like,
Wait a
oh,
minute.
wait, that's like a bus ride away. You can't just, So I'm like looking like, okay, we're gonna be
Right.
cutting it really, really close.
Yeah.
Already got train tickets and everything to get to Segovia. Um,
Mhm.
Turns out that what did we miss? We hopped on the bus. We went to the train station, and we missed the train by like how many minutes? It was just a matter of minutes that we missed that train to um,
Yeah.
Segovia. So,
Yeah.
um, but Jack, the one thing that I can truly say, and I mean, I love having this conversation. Obviously, you're my brother, really back and everything, but the one thing that I really really appreciate um, about you traveling with you is your mindset. There's some people that will, you know, practically lose it if they get lost. But you're like, okay, all right, okay. So we weren't able to make that train. Next train is at this time. Oh, so this is what we can do in the interim.
Mhm.
You're all about being productive. You're constantly in a learning state. And I remembered as we were rescheduling, for lack of better words, we it was the one. What was the like the ticket machine or something like that? I don't know if you remember we had to kind of like navigate how to use that. So
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
that's the one
Yeah.
thing that I really really appreciate.
I, I love that too because I think, all right, so a couple of things I'm going to remember for next time is one, uh, before you leave on a trip like that, try to lay out the airport and understand and look at a map and make sure, like you even mentioned it to me, it's about learning Spanish and language based on the situations that you're in so you can navigate that. So that's one. But the second,
Mhm.
which I really enjoyed, sis, is expect the unexpected and keep your plans fluid because that's what makes it a trip. And sometimes we love to like, we've got our itinerary, we want to do it like this. And then
Mhm.
we get thrown all these different things navigating a new space. And for me, it was I'm in the different terminal, you're in another terminal. I'm still trying to figure out how to get here. And so that was the theme of our whole weekend. Like our whole time together, it was being fluid and kind of letting the trip guide us. And that's what I think
Mhm.
made it a better experience, because we didn't feel like we were on this long tour guide with on this stop, take this picture. Okay, now go to the next thing. We were really
Right.
out there getting lost and learning along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to share another quick video with you. Um, or let me just say this. This particular video is just a little clip from Segovia. But remember remember what happened before we arrived in Segovia. So I'll show you guys some shots of that maybe the next time around. But anyway, we just missed that train by a minute or two. And then when we finally got on the train, Jack, what happened? On the train, the 30-minute trip to Segovia, what happened, Jack?
Well, first of all, the train, trains were in and out of service. They were doing changes. And so our train just started going. It didn't follow the route that it was supposed to follow. And it wasn't until later you discovered that this train wasn't following the route because you got up and started talking to people. And so we were just pretty much out in the middle of nowhere on it wasn't like, it was more of a regional, local kind of train. And I love it because, we were out there. It was not, uh, you know, big city train, next stop, pulling to the station. We were really out there on the train.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I think I'm almost certain I misjudged that day with
Oh, okay.
because the tracks, it, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know, but bottom line is, we got to the end of the trajectory. And that's when I knew. I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
Wait a minute. Like, well, what about Segovia?
Right, right. And the thing,
But you know what though? But
yeah,
you know what though? Um, remember, there was a mother and a daughter,
yep,
adult daughter with her mother that was
yep,
visiting from
yep,
Peru.
yep,
We connected with them.
yep.
They got lost too.
Mm-hmm,
And we kind of just took them under our wings.
mm-hmm,
And long story short, and this is very interesting to me. Long story short is, instead of taking the train to Segovia, because it was going to be, I don't know, like uh, several hours of a delay,
mm-hmm.
and we thought it would be quicker to take another means of transportation, and we ended up in an Uber.
We ended up in an Uber. And
Did you know? I think in the beginning you said that you work
I work at
for
Uber,
Uber.
and I had no clue. A few months later, I'd be interviewing and working at Uber, and and it's so funny because I actually have a picture of that Uber ride,
Yes.
because it was just so fascinating to be able to be anywhere in the world and pull up Uber and say, "Hey, I need an Uber," and seamlessly get an Uber, and we were on our way. But remember, that Uber driver was navigating us down a hill. And so,
Yeah.
map, I had to take a picture of the map because the map, I promise you, looked just as crazy like a kid was drawing on it. But we were coming out of the hill into Segovia. And so, in hindsight, I didn't realize it, but maybe that was a little bit of the universe telling me you had to take that trip from where we were, Cecilia, I believe, to Segovia via an Uber. So,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yep.
Yes. Now I do realize, some people, especially if you are well traveled, some people will say, "Well, wait a minute, taxi is an option." It absolutely an option. However, um, it there are, how do I describe this? Well, number one, Uber is in Spain. I don't know how far of a reach you guys have there, but that's just another uh, um, a piece of info that I want to offer, is that Uber does exist in Spain. I can't tell you what all of the the locations, but at least we know that it runs in the Segovia, Madrid. It exists. Just wanted to share that piece right there. So, but also too, we
Thank you.
made
On behalf,
what's that?
on behalf of my company, thank you. Yeah. Spain.
um, so, but we made new friends, and I absolutely love doing that. And speaking of that, Jack,
Mm-hmm.
those friends did ask about you recently. I want to say maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I've been in contact
Mm-hmm.
with them. They have opened up their doors to us. Whenever we come back to Spain, they're like, "Hey, let us know, and we're here for you guys." So,
Who does that?
um,
Who does that? Like,
that's
I'm in New York, and you sometimes I think we're just so used to not to talk to people and
mhm,
mind your business, stay to yourself. You're definitely not in the middle of Spain going to make friends with someone, ride an Uber together, get to Segovia, and like spend an afternoon with people you just met. And I think if we did more of that, obviously the world would be a better place. And so I love that I was able to have that experience with you, that you helped initiated that, and the
mhm,
fact that you still stayed in touch with them. That's amazing.
absolutely,
Hmm.
yeah. All right, so let me give you another visual here.
No, it's not that well.
So that was our first,
Ooh,
well, supposed to be our first stop.
take me back.
You said take you back.
Take me back. Yes.
Segovia, España. Estuvimos en Segovia, España. We were in Segovia, Spain. I was so happy to take you there.
That was probably my, if you ask me like what stop or place, Segovia is like, I don't know. That was probably one of my favorite places. And I think if you even look at that video, like that wasn't you piping in music, like that was a gentleman who was actually playing. And so it was very picturesque, it was very calming, but also it was just beautiful in terms of the architecture and just the pace of life with everyone like stopping to just slow down and like be present. So go
Mhm.
was probably one of my favorite destinations.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So, um, let's move on to that afternoon or after Segovia. I'll just say
Hmm.
it that way. So let me pull something else up here.
Yeah.
How about this?
What do you think about the shrimp and garlic as a side?
Oh, look at that.
Yes. So that's my favorite hangout spot. That is Salamanca, Spain. Salamanca, España. And so that was the what we just showed you was the Plaza Mayor, like the
Hmm.
main square. And it's also if you go into Google and you type in like Plaza Mayor, Salamanca, España, some refer to it as the living room.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so this is like it's the main square. It's where people hang out. It's I mean my favorite. I could say so much about it, but Jack, I want to hear from you since it was your first experience.
Yeah. So I think definitely my favorite. I don't know if you remember, but we were sitting there one night and it was still daylight and then it transitioned into night and all the
Mhm.
lights were on and everyone
Mhm.
started clapping.
Yeah.
So it really felt like the living room or the town square because everyone's like, okay, all the lights are coming on. Everyone started clapping. And as we went to different cities, I came to appreciate that that was probably one of the best plazas in Spain. And so just sitting there and being able to walk around and pick whatever restaurant you want to eat at and like really the scenery, the food, uh getting ice cream or gelato afterwards. Like it was the best. Where where you lived, you were really in the heart of everything. So I remember coming into your place during the day and then stepping out at night, and your whole front area was transformed into a restaurant where people were dining. So I love the fact that so much of the dining experiences outdoors, right? And people connecting and kind of being together versus everyone being inside of a restaurant. And so it just felt more open. And I think that kind of created the experience where you were not eating alone, but like all of us we pulled up a table in the living room and we're eating all together.
Mhm. Yeah. So Jack, I want to take us back a second.
Yeah.
I want to take us back. I want to so that's us in Segovia, obviously. Just to bypass this piece right here, but this was us in front of a must-see castle in
Yes.
Segovia. Must see. If I understand correctly, they said it was that Disney was fashioned after this. But the thing that I wanted to pull up was this. Um, you saw this.
Hmm.
You took a picture of this.
I did.
What drove you to that?
Yeah, so my wife's family is from Panama, and I was not expecting to after we finally got to Segovia, we got out of our Uber, we're hanging out with our friends. The first thing I see is a Panamanian flag in Segovia. And so it just reminded me that, our world is much smaller than we think, and there are people from everywhere, all kind of living together. And so obviously I didn't knock on their door like, hey, Panama, Panama. But I just took a picture of it. I sent it to my mother-in-law and they were so excited to see that even in Spain, Panamanians are everywhere. So just reminding us of that. It was so cool to see that, and it's that pride, right? Like everyone has pride for their country and where they're from, and Panamanians are definitely known for that. So it made me smile, and it was really right outside of the aqueducts, which is another thing about which I loved about Segovia was the stuff we learn in school, and I think this generation with AI and virtual and augmented reality, they're going to get to learn and experience history like no other. I
Mhm.
enjoyed that trip so much because we were looking at the castles, we were seeing the Spanish aqueduct, and I was like, oh yeah, I read about that in history, but it was like a paragraph in a book. Now I'm looking at it and seeing
Yeah.
this engineering feat, and I'm like, wow. So yeah, I think all of that was just that entire day from Segovia, from the airport to wandering on a train to get into Segovia, to seeing the aqueducts, to seeing the castles, to seeing the plaza, it was like a visual overload for me coming from New York, which was very metropolitan and urban. And so I think that was probably what made it such a great day for me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So Jack, you were there 5 days, and just to like just to hear you talk, it, it's like I'm reliving those 5 days all over again. There was so much that was
Hmm.
accomplished in 5 days, and quite frankly, to be honest with you, when I first invited you to come. By the way, I spent like 4 months in Spain this year. Well, last year that is. And when you said that you were only going to be able to do 5 days, I'm like,
Got me close.
it's going to take you longer than that to adjust to the time difference, because it's a 6 hour,
Mm-hmm.
it's a 6 hour time difference, 6 hours ahead of New York. And so, the jet lag, and I'm like, okay, he's going to lose time because he's going to need to sleep, and all of this. And so here I am trying to make the most of the trip without, stretching you, without stretching you too much. And that's the beauty of Spain, is that even with 5 days,
Mm-hmm.
there's just so much that you can do, and it's close. It's not like it's not like you have to travel, 5, 6, 7 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
Jack, you've been on every mode of transportation. When I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. So this guy, obviously, he's had the airline experience. He's navigated the airport, so he's done the plane, he's done the train.
Mm-hmm.
We were even on the bus. We'll talk a
Us.
little bit. We'll talk a little bit about that. But you were on La Cercanía.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you were on every
We
mode of transportation. Say again now.
walked.
Of course we walk.
We
Absolutely. That, yeah. You know what? In fact, I tell people all the time, when I'm in Spain, I don't have I really don't even have a desire to have a car. Especially when I'm in my sweet spot, which is Salamanca. I think everybody and their grandmother knows that I love, I just love the area.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's a win-win. I'm like burning those calories, naturally burning those calories. But La Cercanía, that is one of the experiences that I wanted you to have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that day, or during the time that you were with me, that was the first time that we had live music on La Cercanía.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was beautiful. It was relaxing. That is, as much as I have been on that, I've never had, I've never had live music. So
Was that a weekend for us? You know how sometimes it's the work
you
day.
came on a Friday. You arrived on a Friday. Yeah,
Right,
you
so it
you,
was
you arrived on a Friday. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
they were getting a little bit more lively. Yeah, that was amazing. And I think too, like you mentioned, every mode of transportation. I think another thing that I really appreciated is that, and I don't know if you remember, you were like, Jack, we can go to Portugal if you want to.
Absolutely.
So I took
Absolutely.
for granted, but now I know that when you travel to Spain, you are 2 hours or less from so many different major cities,
Absolutely.
to the regional high speed
Mhm.
network, rail network, and the planes. And so it's a trip within trips if you plan
Absolutely.
the right way. And it wasn't until I got there and you're like, oh yeah, we go to Portugal. I was like, what? And then I looked at the price. It was like a cheap price, and it's 2 hours, and like you lived off of your phone that folded. And all you lived by was your train schedule. And it's like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to
Yeah.
Barcelona? Do you want to go to Madrid? And so I think that's what I really appreciated, and also made me come back. And I remember the joke you tell, like folks who come here and they're like, well, wait a minute, we want to go to Philly, we want to go to Boston, we want to go. Wait a minute, you can't actually kind of do that here. Just kind of hopping and skipping
No,
and
you coming here for 5. You coming here for 5 days,
you're going to be in your
and
area.
yeah, you come here for 5 days, and you're like, well, we want to go to Washington State because we want to see the space needle. Okay, you're coming to DC. You're coming to DC,
Yeah,
but you want to go to Washington DC because you want to see the space needle. You want to experience the space needle. You want to go to Disney, which,
right,
oh, by the way, is
right,
a different coast.
exactly.
West Coast, East Coast. North, South, and we want to go to New York. Okay, so
Yeah,
no,
we're gonna
you
do
can't do that.
that. Right. So I appreciated that, and I also think probably some of our best moments when I look back at the pictures are you and I on the train, and like I got to experience the first class, I got to experience coach, I got to experience all the different levels of train, and guess what? At the end of the day, it's high speed, it's reliable, it gets you to where you want to go. But I
Yeah,
love
you
that
guys will see that in the next video.
you were able to give me an overview of what it was like, and so I just appreciated that, and I think I didn't know before I got know before you go. There's so many opportunities in Spain for you to visit so many different cities, and so plan that into your trip.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was my intent to take you to Portugal, but our trip took an well, his visit took an unexpected turn. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, if you are in Spain, especially in the Salamanca, Avila, Madrid, up in that area, um, you can actually from Madrid, you can hop on a plane and you can get to another country, Portugal, Portugal, in like an hour and 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's más o menos. It's very very close.
Right.
Like Jack said, it's not not very expensive at all. Once you get there, hop on a train there. It will take you basically. Well, you know what? Um, I can't believe I'm just drawing a blank. What is it? Okay. Oh, Porto. There we go. I was trying to think of the name of the city that I was trying to take him to. Some
Yeah.
people say Porto, others say Oporto. That's like my favorite. That's like my favorite. So you hop on a train once you arrive in Portugal, and that train takes you right into basically the heart of the city. That was another place that I'm a walker, so I had no desire to have a car there as well. But once you get there, there's just so many different activities. Too much to talk about in this
Mm-hmm.
particular video, but that's one place that you can check out as well. And obviously, you have I think Lisboa is la capital, it's the capital. But nonetheless, our point is, as Jack has already mentioned, is that you can actually visit other countries. And guess what? You don't have to hop on a plane to do these things. Everything pretty much depends on your time
Mm-hmm.
because before Jack arrived, he came to visit me in August. In April, I had driven from Salamanca, Spain to Portugal. I took some friends there, and it was about a 3.5 hour drive. Obviously, things kind of depend on the traffic as well, but we rented a car and we drove there, and we stayed overnight, and we had an absolutely wonderful time. So yeah, there's a lot to do. Like Jack already mentioned, it's not spread out nowhere near like the United States. If my understanding serves me correctly, um, Spain is about. I think I read somewhere on the web where it said something about like the United States is like 19 times the size of Spain. So so yeah, very very easy to navigate. Okay, so Jack, I want to talk a little bit, since we're talking about Spain,
Mm-hmm.
language, culture, travel. Um, your your wife and your mother-in-law
Mm-hmm.
are of Panamanian descent.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack, just for the benefit of our viewers, what would you rate your Spanish level at?
Uh,
Is
right.
Spanish spoken in your home? I know the answer to that, but tell us
Right.
tell us a little bit about that. And do you do
Yeah.
you think that just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say obviously Spanish in high school, you had to take 2 years of that. College, it wasn't spoken. It's spoken in my home, but not as fluently. It's more of different phrases that my wife will use. Obviously, my mother-in-law will use. My wife's abuelita, who recently passed, like it's around you, and I hear it, and I know certain words, right? But it wasn't like spoken fluently where I could pick up on it. So that's kind of the extent of my Spanish. But I think when you are put in situations where you have to kind of navigate, that's when you like appreciate it more and you want to learn it. But yeah, my Spanish is pretty much not there.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So I want to share. Um, I want to. So Jack,
Mm-hmm.
one of the many things that grabbed my attention that grabbed my attention while you were there. By no means am I the Spanish expert. I'm
Yeah.
still learning it,
Right.
and I'm going to be learning until the day that I die. I'm
Yep.
always looking for ways to improve, but I definitely can survive.
Hmm.
No doubt about that.
Yep.
But one of the things that I notice is that phrases and words that I shared with you,
Yep.
you put it into practice right away. Give
Yep.
me one moment. I want to share something really really quickly here, and I this tip that I'm sharing in this clip right here is actually one of the tips that I shared with you. But I want to hear from you with regard to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? That means, how do you say? Hey, this is Letitia. Just want to drop a quick Spanish nugget that may be helpful in those times that you are struggling to find a particular word or to identify the name of a particular object. Using the phrase, ¿cómo se dice? 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 That means, how do you say? For example, right now, I'm in the parking lot. Now, if I want to say, how do you say car in Spanish? I would say, ¿cómo se dice car en español? So I would say, how do you say? I would identify the object, or I could just simply point to it, and then I'll add en español. So if I want to point at the car, I could say, ¿cómo se dice este en español? ¿Cómo se dice esta en español? Now it's your turn. ¿Cómo se dice en español?
I love it. I love it. Oh, that was the best. That was the best. Yeah, because I think what you're doing, and even with this channel and your video, social media and these different platforms are allowing multiple teachers to come and show us how to learn Spanish in situations and like be able to hold on to it. Because I took Spanish for 2 years. You half of it you don't remember because it has no situational context. But like
Mhm.
you said, like I remember that so well because of how you taught me how to navigate. And I think that and a couple of other phrases, and even to your point, hey, learn the words you need to know based on where you're going to be. So Jack, if you're traveling in an airport, learn about airports, or you're taking the train via of taking the bus. So like try to establish that kind of vocabulary based on the situations you're going to be in. That's so much more strategic, and you actually retain it, right? Remember they joke about half the stuff you'll never use in high school or college, and like you're right,
Mhm.
that's stuff I never use, but I need to say "como se dice" and like point to something. So I love that, and I think too, what was also great about that trip is you first of all, your background, why you're in Spain, all of the study and coursework you're doing, but you said something, and I have it here, and I want to read it to you because I wrote it down. You said, it's not enough to be bilingual, you have to be bicultural, understanding the nuances, choices of words, tones, gestures, situational context, what's in good or poor taste. You and I had a whole conversation about translation theory and interpretation, and you made me appreciate sometimes how we take for granted that just because someone is a native speaker, that doesn't mean they know how to translate or they understand like really complex concepts. Like, sure, I can speak English, but don't get me to quote the law and like translate that. So I think what was so awesome about the trip was you helped me realize that there's more to it than just being able to kind of speak the language. And like your goal is to even go beyond speaking a language, but understanding how to know the nuances and what situations do I need to be a little bit more professional and where can I be a little bit more laid back and relaxed. And so that's how I was like, wow, there's a whole nother language going on here that you made me realize it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I forgot I said some of that to you,
Oh,
but that's true. It's yeah, absolutely. Even us as native speakers, as you've already alluded, just because we are native speakers, it doesn't. Oh, let me just say it like this here: the more I learn about Spanish,
yeah.
the more I learn about my own language.
Mm, Come
I'll
on now.
just say it. I'll just say it that way. Oh, he said he done hit the come on now.
Yeah, and we started to rock back. Oh,
No, it's like, and when someone has like intensely studied the language, people that are learning English, a lot of times they learn things that we haven't like studied because we learned it in a totally different way,
mhm.
you know. And there's been times when I'm like, oh, that's not right in English. But the thing, but the thing that I want to say about Spanish is that I think sometimes, and these are broad generalizations, is that when people think of Spanish, they think of like one culture. Some people,
Mhm.
not everyone, but there's like 20 plus countries,
Mhm.
whose primary language is Spanish. Totally different, totally different countries. Spain is not Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic is not Mexico. Mexico is, it's not, it's not Panama. They all have their distinct cultures. And
Yeah.
as you already know, I love just learning about different cultures. So when we talk about the culture, we even talk about the dialect, just like we have different dialects here in the United States, which comes sometimes conceptually. Someone that's learning English, they don't understand that there's cultures within the cultures. People from the north, you know, some people may say pop, other people may say soda, some people may say soft drink. You know,
Right.
some people speak with a deep southern accent. Others, so it's like the same, it's like the same concept. So again, yeah, learning the language learning is not just about learning how to uh, say like certain words, whatever the case may be, but it's being bicultural as
Mhm.
well. When I navigate in Spain, I'm cognizant of, their culture, how they perceive things.
Mhm.
I'm mindful of even how, like, certain words that I use in Spanish. Like, for example, and again, these are like some broad generalizations, but when I refer to a car in Spain, I'll say coche,
Mhm.
coche. But like here in the United States, some people may not recognize it, but there is a U.S. Spanish as well, you
Mhm.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but when I'm in other Spanish-speaking countries, I'm gonna say like carro, carro. So it just really, it really depends. So we can go on and on
Mhm.
about that, but I think that it's not about being bilingual, but being bicultural, connecting with their with the culture as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I think you gave a great analogy of how oftentimes children in the U.S. or who are born here, their parents are from Spanish-speaking countries, they have to translate for their parents, and there's sometimes
Mhm.
situations where they're having to translate concepts and things that are well
Concepts.
beyond
Here we
them.
go.
And so
Mhm.
that empathy, I got a lot of empathy for the fact that I'm in a country where I don't understand the language and I'm trying to navigate it and I need a guide like you, but also recognizing even my guide might be in out of their wheelhouse in some situations. So it was just, I think that whole experience was a teachable moment for me in terms of bilingual versus being bicultural, but also understanding translation comes with so much more than just words, but knowledge and understanding, whether it's medical, legal, environmental, just pick a concept. And so, yeah, I think you helped me realize that, and I appreciate it that much more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as we prepare to wrap this up,
Yeah.
um, we'll wrap part one up. I'll say it
Yeah.
that way. I want to talk a little bit about how the original plans took an unexpected turn. So, Jack, I am so, so grateful
Mhm.
that you came when you did. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but my schedule started to get a little tight, and I started to take into consideration all of the things that I needed to get done
Hmm.
before my departure. And I was about to reach out to you and say, hey, bro, you know, um, it looks like Spain will be an every year ordeal for me, and so maybe we can, maybe you can come visit me next year or something like that. But I'm so glad,
Makes
I'm so glad that I did not do that. And so I want to share one more visual here, because as I was making plans for us, I was trying to keep us like in a general area so that we wouldn't have to travel too far
right.
um, throughout the country. But let me see if I can pull it up here. Uh, okay, so here we go. Let me pull this on the screen here.
Cool.
So let's put us off to the side here. So here we go. I don't know. Hang on a second here. Let's see if I can make this larger. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see this too well. Very good. But nonetheless, so this is Madrid right here. So my intent was basically to kind of keep us, you know, right here. I was like, maybe we could do a trip to Toledo, because most of the trips by train, you and I could get there in like less than like an hour and a half, or right at 2 hours. So I was like, oh, we can go to Toledo from Madrid. We can go to Salamanca, which is where I was living. We have Avila, and then there was another place that I wanted to take you to. So here is where you landed, right here in Madrid, la capital, the capital of Madrid here.
Mhm.
All right, and then we go up here. Yeah, we go up here to Segovia. You can't see it because of my language culture travel thing, but Segovia is right here. So Jack, tell me, how in the world did we? Are you able to see? Are you able to see the mouse?
Yeah, I see your mouse.
Okay, okay. So how in the world do we end up like look all the way? Okay,
Way.
let me hang on a second. Let me try something else here, because I need you to see this here. So so let me try this again. All right. So how in the world do we end up? You remember Sevilla? Does that
Hmm.
ring? I don't know if that rings a bell.
Yeah, I do. I remember. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How in the world we end up all the way down here to the naval base, all
Roto.
the way to the naval base, like as far south as you can go,
Or
just before like the borders of Africa, right? And that was another. I don't know if you realize how close we were to that border. I
I'm
don't know if
looking
you.
at Gibraltar right now. Like we were down there. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, hang on a second. Let me Yeah. So how in the world did we end up?
In the world.
So long story short, and maybe we can show some visuals the next time, is like the next day after Jack arrived arrived, day two, I my tooth started to hurt. And I'm trying to make the best of it. And so I remember day two, I let Jack sleep as long as he wanted to, because
Oh yeah.
again, a
Yeah.
6 hour. We talking about a 6 hour time difference here. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna bother him. And I think you woke up like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Jack.
Yeah. It was a 12 hour. I felt like a 12-hour nap. I was hibernating.
Yeah. So Jack wakes up, and my tooth is like hurting like really, really bad. So you know what? That's another. Speaking of that, that's another thing to take in consideration too. Is what happens when you're
Mm.
traveling out of country and the unexpected happens.
Yep.
Medical, dental. Are you prepared? Do you have insurance? these are things that a lot of times people don't think about, especially younger people, because we think we're invincible. We just don't think about these things. But you don't want to be away from home, especially out of the country, without taking this into consideration. Thankfully, in my case, I am retired military, so
Mm-hmm.
I was covered. So long story short, my tooth like started hurting, like really, really, really bad. I'm trying to make the best of it, and I'm not wanting to let Jack know how bad I was hurting. And so I remember telling him, "Oh, Jack, I'm gonna go run to the After I told him, I was like, "Oh, my tooth is hurting a little bit. I'm just gonna go run to the pharmacy because you can do that in Spain. That's a that's a beautiful thing. You can go and talk to the pharmacist." So I go and I talk to the pharmacist and explain my situation, and they're like, "Oh, no, you need to make an appointment."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to tough it out. I go back to my apartment, and Jack and I go out to eat. We have a nice time, and I was really excited to take Jack to my church that I attended while I was there in Spain. Everybody was excited to see him and everything. And long story short, I got no rest that night.
Mm-hmm.
My jaw started swelling. It was like a nightmare. So I wake up the next morning and I'm like, Jack, I can't do this. I have to be seen. The thing is when it comes to this mouth right here, I am very, very concerned about who I let touch it. So long story short is there was a military naval base. This naval base by car was, well, I don't want to give any I don't want to give any false info here, but it it was, I'm just going to say, multiple hours
Mm-hmm.
driving. So long story short, we decided that we were going to hop on the fast train, the fast train. So here I am. I'm hurting. My jaw is swollen, but I am so grateful that Jack was there. That he was there for me. So Jack, I'll let you. And I was concerned as well because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's here for 5 days, and I wanted him to make the most out of his experience, and I don't want him to have to spend his experience, in the hospital or at a medical appointment. But I'm telling you, and I'm saying this just because, this is my brother, or just because you're my brother, but Jack, you made me feel so like sis, no big deal. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for you. I'm gonna take. I'm like gonna take care of you. The
Yep.
compassion that you showed, all of that,
Yep.
that
So
meant
look,
so much to me.
hey, you would have done the same for me, but I looked at
Absolutely.
maps, 5 hours and 33-minute drive. So once again, you and I are on another great adventure, and I think where we have always where we're very similar is that we know how to think under pressure and like pivot and navigate, and we always got a backup plan and we're always ready. So this was like no surprise to us. I remember that morning figuring out what train we wanted to catch, the express train, the local trains. Obviously, the train situation was good, but you run into issues where sometimes you have to get those tickets quick. If not, they book out. And so what I think this made me realize is it's important to know in the event of you getting hurt or needing medical attention where you should go. And I think
Mhm.
hit it on the nail. You just think about going on a trip and going to have fun. You don't think about all
Mhm.
things like you need to have trip insurance. What if you get sick? So I'm sitting here looking at this video and I'm saying to you, I would rather watch one of your videos than, look at like somebody's 5-minute highlight reel of what it's like in the city, because I need to know the nuances and what things I need to prepare for. So yeah, you and I went to a naval station. I think
Rota.
hindsight, our sister is in the Navy, and she wanted to make sure we got to talk about the Navy because we have an inside joke where our sister is Jill Navy. She loves the Navy, 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 Navy. She's always talking about the Navy. And we were finally on a trip where we weren't talking about the Navy. And I guess she was like, no, 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 no. The Navy has to be a part of this conversation. So we went down there, and you were seen that night. We were able to get a quick room. We took Uber. Remember, we took an Uber for the last leg of the trip. You had to wake up that next morning and go in. But it was really 24 hours. And honestly, in hindsight, it didn't seem like that big of a deal because once again, you and I were
Mm-hmm.
traveling to different parts of a country that I haven't seen before, learning along the way
Yeah.
the nuances of being in southern Spain, the difference in the trains, all of that was just once again, it was another adventure for us. And so I think that's what made it made it good. But at the same time, like I wanted to make sure you were okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that is what made me even more comfortable. Jack, I am just so amazed how you make an experience out of everything.
Have to.
You know, everything. You were like, "Sis," you know, you didn't exactly say it like this, but you were like, well, if we hadn't come here, we wouldn't have saw this. If this hadn't happened, then you just, you
Gratitude.
know,
Gratitude.
yeah. And so it's just your mindset.
Hmm.
It's your mindset, and I think you really to really um embrace the beauty of what travel has to offer. You really have to have an open mindset. And so even with that experience, I, I'm grateful for that. Someone may ask, someone that may be watching may ask, well, wait a minute, why did you have to go all the way to Rota? I did not have to go
Right.
all the way there. However, I will say one thing is that um, when I asked the dentist, because I ended up having to have my tooth extracted because I had a really bad infection going on um, under some bridge work that I had. I'm sorry, a crown that I had had. Um, there was no way to detect it, but it decided to manifest itself, while I was in Spain, and gratefully, while Jack was with me. Anyway, I asked the dentist out of curiosity. I knew I made the right decision by going there,
Hmm.
but I asked him out of curiosity. I said, "How much would this have cost me if I had to pay for it on the economy?" And he said, like $1,200, almost $1,300, 1,200, 1,250, $1,300.
Hmm.
So again, that was because I'm retired military, and so you know that was the nearest, and if I'm not mistaken, the only military base in Spain. And so I don't regret that decision. And not only that, Jack, speaking about making an experience out of everything, we even made new friends
Yeah.
at the urgent.
All right. That's right.
We
The
made
truth.
we made new friends from
Right.
from the clinic there. And not only that, but I still keep in contact as well um,
And
with them. So
wanted to stay an extra day down there because they were telling me the different plazas and food in that region. But unfortunately, I
hmm
had to get back because I needed to get back from my plane. But like even then, I'm like, oh man, like then that's why I'm like, I have to come back because now I know that it's many trips within a trip. So yeah, even in that experience, we were taught a valuable lesson. And I think, when you're buying your plane tickets, the trip insurance, you skip that. You don't even think about health insurance or just what happens if I get sick. And so, like, I think that was just a good reminder just for all of us.
hmm
Hmm.
Okay, all right. So, final question, Jack, and then we will wrap it up.
Yep.
Is what would you say to? I mean, you've already said a whole lot,
Yep.
but what are some additional tips that you can offer someone that's traveling, to Spain for the first time and they don't speak the language?
Yeah.
What are some of those things that you could offer?
I think for the first time, I think for me, it's one watching your video, and like getting excited about the trip and know before you go, digging into the culture, uh, and going behind what you see on websites that are a little bit more touristy. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I would focus on learning Spanish based on the different situations that I'm in. So airport, traveling
Mm-hmm.
by train, and three, really thinking about how do you want to get the most out of the time that you're there? Because to your point, everything is within 2 to 3 hours or 1 hour via airplane, and so just thinking about how do you want to plan out the different places you want to go, but most importantly, be flexible and give yourself time to be fluid, because sometimes the beauty in the trip is that you don't have a tight itinerary and you go
Mm-hmm.
where situations take you, and that's when you get to meet new friends and have the time that we had.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Jack, for agreeing to do this. We could go on and on and on and on, but we have elected to save some for part two. So, ha sido un placer. It's been a pleasure
Likewise.
estar aquí hablando con ustedes, to be here talking to you all. Make sure that you hit the like button, the subscribe button, and activate the notification bell so that you can be notified every time a new video is uploaded, especially when we upload the second portion of Jack's experience in Spain. Habiendo dicho eso, having said that, hasta la próxima. Chao, chao.
Bye, everyone.